speaker and a fellow Greenwich University graduate. Same courses, same lecturers, but I don't think we bumped into each other. No, he got better than me. Mine was a complete screw up. But anyway, Matt Godden.
Good afternoon, everybody.
It's not going to be an hour and a half, is it?
59 minutes, 59 seconds, so just under an hour. No, well, I'll be quite quick, I promise. Before I do get cracking, just want to say thanks to Lawrence for arranging this meeting. And also thanks for inviting me to speak again. It's always a privilege to speak at your meetings. And you've noticed that I've got to that age where I now require a pair of spectacles to be able to see what I'm actually reading. I've recently been undertaking the very riveting, very exciting task of reading some philosophy. Don't worry, I'll try not to bore everyone too much. And yes, I'm one of these people who's actually quite keen on reading some philosophy. But I wanted in particular to learn more about the conception of struggle within the human condition. I'd previously read Nietzsche, who I find compelling, but this time I wanted to attempt to read some of the Stoics of ancient Greece and Rome. So why would I want to read this particular ideology? Well, I believe that Britain is engaged in its biggest struggle, an existential struggle that has the capacity to permanently reconfigure and undermine our entire society. We see evidence of this on television, on the internet, radio, newspapers. And when I do see this, when I'm confronted with it, I think that once again I'm seeing another migrant ship arriving on our shores, or once again another tax hike, once again a decline in economy, once again another rape gang scandal, once again another failure in our National Health Service, and it agitates me. And I'm reminded of the struggle that we're all engaged in. I'm certain that there's people here in this room and watching online who share that sentiment. So we need to summon our resolve, or as the Stoics would contrive, summon our internal control. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, and I quote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, hardship should not be met with bitterness, but instead should be met with resilience. And my goodness, us British require some resilience at the moment, don't we? But the problem with the Stoic tradition is that they aimed for a kind of internal tranquility. Nothing wrong with that, of course, nothing wrong with that at all. But we do not currently live in a tranquil country. Britain is increasingly becoming more chaotic and disconnected. So I tend to actually subscribe more to the Nietzschean sentiment of struggle, which isn't something merely to endure, but instead is a necessary condition for growth. I want everybody to very briefly think about the chaos that Britain is currently embroiled in. And just remember, we are a collective of concerned individuals with similar anxieties. And we are united in our collective desire to save our country. Therefore, Nietzsche's famous declaration, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," is no cliche, but a radical call to reframe adversity, to embrace it, and to challenge it. That's the struggle that we have on our hands. And we really do have a fight, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a case in point. The Daily Telegraph recently led with this headline, and I quote, "Concern over mass migration is terrorist ideology, says Prevent." I'm going to read that again. "Concern over mass migration is terrorist ideology, says Prevent." Now, for those who don't know, Prevent is the government's anti-terror organisation. So one may assume, therefore, that the Prevent programme would be concerned with preventing things like stabbings on London Bridge, or bombings at our airports, or concerned with terrorists blowing up children at pop concerts, or concerned maybe with attacks on commuters on the London Underground, perhaps the stabbing of little girls at Taylor Swift dance classes. But no, the government anti-terror czar has a preoccupation with concerns over mass migration. I'm going to ask everybody in this room and at home watching online a question. Is there anybody in this room who is concerned with mass migration? And I'm guessing that the majority of you do have that concern. Well, I have news for you then, ladies and gentlemen. You are terrorist sympathisers. Britons are already facing concrete struggles. Rising housing costs, wage stagnation, cultural and ethnic replacement, traditional industries being offshored, two-tier police force, and to top it all off, we are now being branded as terrorist sympathisers. Until recently, our struggle has been both economic and political, but now the political elites are adopting lawfare to silence us. Lucy Connolly, of course, confined to nearly 3 years in jail for a social media post, while Pakistani child rapists are committed to lesser sentences. And now if you express concern for mass migration, you could potentially be regarded as a terrorist. This is the latest struggle us British are faced with. And more recently, as Stephen in his wonderful speech alluded to earlier, at the Glastonbury Festival, an act you've now heard of called Bob Villain announced in one of their half-baked songs, and I quote, "I heard you want your country back, ha ha, shut the fuck up." Well, oddly enough, I do want my country back, but I will certainly not be shutting up, and by God, I will do anything I can in my power to get my country back. And of course, this was broadcast live on the good old BBC. Just want to briefly return to the Stoics for a moment. The Stoics believed that life was given to us by nature. And I'd remind you that Aristotle contended that we are by nature social and political beings. The Stoics contend, and I quote, "We are born into communities, immediately into our family, but also into our local community and our country." I quote that from a book called Lessons in Stoicism. I agree with this contention, but the author, John Sellers, continues, and I quote, "and ultimately into the community of all humankind." And here my sympathy with the Stoic tradition dwindles. In my judgment, it underpins a fundamental weakness in the Stoic tradition because tribalism is natural, not globalism. And that should be the natural approach of our tribe, known as the British. And while, of course, universally we all harbour similar desires and fears, aspiration for justice, ambition, etc., this universal presence of fundamental traits do not always manifest in the same way. So in a sense, the Stoics were the first cosmopolitans, the first philosophers that embraced a universal version of humankind, a globalist perception, if you will. This vision contradicts the natural law that I speak of because tribalism is a deeply ingrained aspect of human behaviour. It has evolutionary roots, it is grounded in cognition and expresses a need for identity and belonging. Indeed, in the Republic, Plato suggests that for a society to function well, it needs myths or beliefs that bind people into a collective identity, even if they're not literally true. This signals how tribalism structures shared narratives and or myths. The structure of Britain has been dismantled. You know, somebody asked me a few years ago now what I thought of Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair, and I replied that I thought Thatcher had hollowed our economy by offshoring our traditional industries, while Blair completed the betrayal by undermining our culture. The consequence is obvious and alarming, so we are now struggling against economic decline, political turmoil and lawfare, all of which I've alluded to already, but now also against a universal vision of global cosmopolitanism. And this is symbolic within the horrendous music festival Glastonbury and the music by Bob Villain, a festival attended by thousands of well-off, middle-class white Britons who cheer and applaud as a singer roars his lyrics, instructing us that we will not have our country back. These self-flagellating buffoons have been infected with an unnatural impression that cosmopolitanism, globalism, white guilt, and the self-loathing of British culture represents fairness and morality, whereas in reality it represents a far-left ideology permeating through our culture, perpetuated by the enemies of Britain. utterly suicidal. And these rappers, or whatever they profess to be, are fully aware of the implications of what they are saying. While they champion Palestinian independence, they simultaneously seek to take Britain away from the native British people. They don't hide or conceal this objective. And this once again returns me to the notion of struggle. Confronting adversity forces us to choose our values and shape our own future rather than passively inheriting one. Britain, of course, has a rich cultural past and at the moment present. And our struggle lies in each epoch, past, present and also future, because our enemies seek to rewrite our history, to take away our successes. So we don't only have to struggle to secure a future for our own country, but we need to struggle to secure our past as well, which is why I say this is the greatest struggle of our lives. And it is a natural struggle for a tribe called the British, but we should not be anxious and we should not be alarmed of struggle. Struggle becomes positive when it strengthens our character, when it sharpens our judgment, when it shapes our virtue and when it strengthens our resolve. And British history books are crowded with examples of how we struggled and indeed how we succeeded. And when future generations of Britons examine the history books about this era, I want them to declare that we Britons had to struggle for our victory. We must remember the suffering, which is what Britons are experiencing at the moment, can be a powerful force for positive change and human development. Our struggle is for the soul of our country and our people, and we must not retreat from the struggle ahead. We are British people, we do not give in. I want to leave you with a thought by Nietzsche. He said that adversity fosters human excellence. People who are comfortable in life characterise themselves as happy, but too much comfort represents stagnation. So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, that life at the moment might be tough for us, but overcoming our struggle, the struggle for our country, means overcoming adversity against the odds. Time and again, the British people have faced adversity and we have triumphed. And make no mistake, we will rise to the challenge once more, just as we have in our glorious past. Thank you.
You know, I think this party, the British Democrats, is extremely lucky and blessed to have such a really good speaker in the Godden. He's not just a fantastic speaker. He's basically he's somebody that is very good on the doors when knocking on doors during an election campaign. You know, he's a natural. He's a natural, and you know, hats off to you, Matt.